Hey, I'm Russ.
And I'm Steve.
Growing up in the 80s, we were introduced to video games, movies, and technology that made a lasting impression on us and forever enriched our lives.
I think I'm gonna cry.
It's been a fascinating journey to be a part of, one that we constantly treasure.
Higher, booty.
Our goal is simple: share our magical moments of discovery and geek out with lovely folks, just like you.
Achievement unlocked.
So if you crave pixel goodness, memorable moments, and experiences that make your inner child do the happy dance, you've come to the right place.
Let's do this.
Welcome to Joygasm.
Yeah.
And welcome back to Joygasm, where we talk about video games, movies, and pop culture. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360, and joining me is Steve, Xbox Live Stevevich, as we commence episode 48 today, November 25th, 2017. To get the most out of Joygasm, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can listen to our podcast on joygasm.tv and soundcloud.com/joygasmtv. Also, for exclusive access and some sweet goodies, check us out at patreon.com/joygasm. And no matter which platform you use to enjoy the show, please drop us a subscription, thumbs up, or a review. It helps build awareness, which we appreciate very much. We have quite the show planned for you today. Gaming news consists of Star Wars Battlefront 2, Wolfenstein 2 DLC packs, and Xbox avatars getting delayed. Movie news includes Moviepass lowering its prices even more. Batman rumors as to who the cape and cowl will go to next. Who Quentin Tarantino wants as his leading man on his next film, and more. Our topic of the day is reviewing Justice League. But first things first, Steve, how you doing?
Right. You know, I feel fat and happy. That's how I feel. That's how I'm doing.
That's a good way to be.
We had Thanksgiving. We gave a lot of thanks. And the girlfriend came in from out of town.
Woo!
Picked her up at 2 a.m. In the morning. So that was awesome. She's joining us in L's studio as a listener.
I look to my left, which is your right.
That's right.
And I see her. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
So other than that, I've appreciated the traffic dying down a bit. Everyone's got to where they were supposed to get to on the holiday.
Yeah, everybody's having a food coma, so they can't drive.
Yeah, everyone's tryptophaned out. Like, I'm not going to drive. Forget that.
I'm so thankful.
Yeah. So in the last few days, I haven't done much with movies and games, but
Of course not, because you had your lady.
That's right.
Coming to visit you, spending some quality time.
That's right. So I did catch up a little bit on Stranger Things. What's happening now is basically the Winona Ryder character is kind of gone nuts, and she started hacking through her wall to find what's the kid's name, and Mike or something. Mikey.
Which one?
The kid who's lost. The first kid who got lost.
Oh, Will.
Okay. Will, Mike, they all sound the same. Anyway.
There's another kid who is Mike.
Okay, well, there we go. I was 5% right. Anyway, so so she's gone mad, and the cop dude kind of broke and entered into the CIA facility and
the X-Files secret facility.
Right. So they drugged him and
Man,
brought
you
him
should say
home.
that with your voice.
What?
X-Files secret facility. X-Files secret facility.
Yeah.
You do it better than I do.
X-Files secret facility.
Yeah.
The Intergalactic Society. And anyway, so they drugged him and took him home, and he found out his house was bugged, and so he's...
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that episode was good.
Yeah, he was kind of freaking out a bit, and he went to go see Joyce, and he's like, Joyce, no, you're not right. You're not wrong. You're right. This is what happened. And she's like, starts crying again, and her ex-husband comes in to see her, and he's like, you're going crazy, and they find out.
Isn't it a good show?
Yeah, it's pretty gripping. Actually, it's getting better and better.
Yeah.
It's got enough like excitement and a little bit of like just a pinch of horror in it to keep you like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then, but it has like the little kid humor and innocence in it that a lot of people can enjoy it.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah.
So, and then 11 was supposed to use her power to help the kids follow the compasses to where the portal was going to be or what they thought. And so then she said it's too dangerous, and so she kind of reverts them back to go in a circle so they wind up closer to home. Mm-hmm. And so they all get mad at her, and she runs away, and that's where I'm at.
There's still plenty more goodness to go.
But they did fall into one cliche, which is where that episode ended, where Nancy, the girl who was dating Steve.
Yeah.
So she and the Winona Ryder's son, the older son, I forgot what his name is, the photographer guy.
Yeah, I know here. I actually forgot what his name is.
So anyhow, they think they're gonna go hunt this thing down with a revolver and a bat, right? So she finds this tree that's real, Ichabod Crane-ish. And so she goes, yells his name a couple times, and of course he can't hear her. Like the forest is densely quiet, but for some reason he can't hear her, and so she decides it's the best idea to walk through this thing, and of course she gets trapped in there, and he finds out, oh, where'd she go, and starts yelling her name, and he's only like 20 paces away, it turns out. And I was like, oh, come on, I knew this was gonna happen.
In a way, though, that's kind of cool because it's quintessential 80s thriller, horror kind of stuff.
So then I played a little more Master Chief, which it was funny. I've been playing it on one under Legendary mode. And
that would be heroic, I think.
I think it is heroic.
It's very heroic of you.
Yeah. And so I got to this part. I'm at the part where the big brood guy takes Master Chief and the Arbiter. And he's like, basically, you guys are going to figure this whole thing out and have to work together at some point. And he drops them back into separate parts of the land, whatever the hell with the halo. And so,
whatever that ringy thing was called,
the ring. So I started passing this part where there was two hunters, and you're kind of going up this ramp. You're getting close to the end of the level. And I thought, I'm just gonna this is so hard. I keep on dying. I'm just gonna run past them, and I did. And I get into the very next door, and now there's two more hunters, and there's brutes, and there's like the elites with a incredibly buff shield. Like they're not like the usual elites. So now I have 4 hunters total with brutes, with elites, and they all want to kill me. I think I died a half a dozen times. No, actually, half. I don't even know. I died. I lost count how many times I died, and they almost got comical. I was getting frustrated because I was dying so much, and I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna like try whatever. And I finally got them all, and I was able to move on and complete the level. But for like 2 nights in a row, I kept dying, just getting slaughtered within 5 seconds nonstop. And it was like that courtroom scene that you had in Wolfenstein too.
Oh,
you kept on going again and again and again and again. And
difficulty just ramps up out of nowhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very nice.
So I'll hit the ping pong ball over your wrist.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we need to do before I get into what I'm talking about is talk about round 2 of our Super Nintendo Classic Mini.
Oh, snap!
And SNES wireless controller giveaway, which has ended. And I believe Steve has the winner in his hot little hand.
Listen up, people. Okay. So, the Super Nintendo, the SNES, with SNES, with the wireless controller, goes to Clinton White from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. How you doing, son?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So you get the Super Nintendo with the wireless controller, as Mr. Toaster 360 just noted. So what you want to do is get on Twitter and tweet us a message, and a direct message, that is. Don't send your personal information right over Twitter there, son. Send us a direct message of where you'd like us to send the goods, and we'll get in touch with you and send it on its way. Give you a little early Christmas present.
Absolutely. Something else to be thankful about on this Thanksgiving holiday.
And I want to thank you, sir, for giving us a shot and listening to us, and all the way from Wisconsin. That's pretty awesome. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And please make sure, too, that you do claim your prize, because if you don't within 48 hours, then we'll be forced to do a round 2 drawing again. So it's very important that you actually claim your prize with us. Don't get lazy on us now. But the other thing that was worth mentioning is the fact that this coming Monday, November 27th, begins the round 3 giveaway. We are giving away, and this is the big one. This is the big kahuna, folks. So if you didn't win, fear not. Get involved with this one, because this one is the big Christmas giveaway here.
This is what we stood in line at 6 a.m. in the rain for.
We still need to put pictures up of that. We have pictures of ourselves just looking so just
soggy and distraught. Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, this time we will be giving away a Super Nintendo Classic Mini, a Super Nintendo wireless controller, and for a third time's the charm,
You don't say.
a collector's edition book that chronicles the hardware creation of the Super Nintendo, as well as the included games. So you're not going to want to miss out on that, because that is, I actually got a copy for myself, and not going to lie, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty nice.
It's a pretty thick book, too.
It is a thick book. Well, it's big, too. It's not like some little dinky thing. Like, you go through it and you're like, wow, this is awesome. It has a bunch of different illustrations of the concept ideation process of back when they were actually designing the Super Nintendo. So you get to see some of the older illustrations of how the system would have looked from a hardware standpoint. And then it also has quite a few of the games that came with the Super Nintendo as well for this package. So it's a nice to have, I must say. So
Quite the loot box there, Russ.
exactly. Yeah. And again, that is going to come in starting on Monday, November 27th, which is the same day that this podcast actually would drop. And it's also worth noting, too, that for those of you who have not entered previously, what you want to do is you want to go to twitter.com/joygasmtv, where you will see a pinned tweet at the top. Currently, we have the one that's round 2, and that'll be taken down because obviously this giveaway is over. But we want you to do 3 things. There's 3 things you have to do to qualify to enter. You have to retweet that tweet. You have to follow at JoygasmTV on Twitter, and subscribe to the Joygasm YouTube channel. And that link is in the pinned tweet for your convenience. That way you're not trying to figure out where we are. Although, if you wanted to, you could just go to youtube.com/joygasm, and we should pop right on up. Like I said before, you must do all 3 to be entered into the giveaway. The last day to enter is December 15th. And we will announce who the winner is here on the Joygasm podcast on December 18th, just in time for Christmas.
I guess you could say that would be the Ides of December.
You suppose you could.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I like that.
Getting Mark Anthony on you.
So, I actually was watching Stranger Things as well. I finished watching season 2 with the wife.
Great.
So that was a lot of fun. I look forward to having you play catch up with that. And the nice thing is that now that you're watching Stranger Things, you're going to finish season 1. You're probably going to get right back into season 2. And then I think season 3 doesn't come out till next October.
You know, since you finished it before I could catch up, I'm just going to watch The Punisher and make you catch up to me on that.
Don't be spoiled.
Don't be a butthurt Billy, okay?
Yeah, butthurt Billy. Now we're gonna get a bunch of emails from all the Billies going, "Hey, what does Billy have to do with it?" Let's see. I was also playing Injustice 2. Hellboy actually got dropped as part of the end of DLC pack number Dose. And he looks great. What they did was a kind of a combination between the film version of Hellboy, but also the comic book version. It's like this kind of cool mashup. And whoever they got to play the voice of Hellboy in the game, it's just great. Like, the whole thing is really cool. I'm still getting used to his fighting style. It's a bit different than the other characters, which, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But that has been quite enjoyable. I will tell you another thing, Steve.
Oh, tell me, Ross.
During the whole Black Friday / Cyber Monday time frame, I'm a very happy man, Steve.
Oh, boy.
I must say that back in the day, games was kind of this standalone thing where they really didn't get any kind of discounts whatsoever. I mean, it was kind of like you could go to any department store and it's like, oh, 30% off, 50% off, 75% off.
Yeah.
And you go into a gaming store and they're like, no.
Yeah, $60. Or no, back then it was 50. 54 after tax.
That's right. Pay full price. What was nice is that in today's world, that's no longer the case. And especially with digital downloads, whether you're on PlayStation Network or you're on Xbox Live, it's just been a wonderful opportunity. And really, I think Steam has a lot to do with it. I think the platform that Valve put forth really was a disruptor in that and set this new type of precedence. And it's been wonderful for the end user because over Black Friday, I was looking at deals where I was able to, I think I picked up like 4 or 5 titles and like they were like, ranging between $6 to like maybe $30. I mean, it's way more cheaper than it ever was back in the day when we were having to pay full price no matter what time of the year it was. I mean, really, the only time we would get a better price is if you waited like 6 months to a year after a game was launched, and then you'd have a reduced price. But my goodness. And then you were texting me too when you were out shopping about how places like Target, for instance, actually did have certain titles, I guess, that were like 50% off, right?
Some of them, yeah. I mean, it's funny because Target used to have a store-wide Black Friday, and now they've really concentrated on games and toys, it seems. And I went in there and took a look around and braved the madness. Since when did Black Friday trade reason for madness?
Oh, nicely done.
I had to reference the Saruman there. Anyway, so yeah.
That was my Saruman
I have to go back there and watch that movie.
yelling of and like, what is it?
There's some spell casting there.
Yeah, the refusal to tolerate Gandalf's insolence anymore.
Yeah. I've been thinking about reason to watch that movie again, Russ, and you might have just given me one.
Hey, there you go.
Anyway, so
you're welcome.
yeah. So I was looking at the sign. Yeah, they had South Park and Need for Speed and Forza and let me think. I think Assassin's Creed also, and they were selling for about $30.
That's good to know. I mean, that's great to know.
And it's kind of funny because you see some of the deals from, if you follow Xbox on Facebook, where they say, okay, you can get these games for 30% off, but Target actually had them cheaper than what they're advertised for.
Well, and I remember you mentioning to me too about how some of these other places, such as Target, are kind of overlooked when it comes to shopping for games. How a lot of folks will just go to GameStop or they'll go on Amazon or whatever, kind of more of the mainstream places that people expect to buy games from. But you were saying how other places such as Target will actually have some of the best prices around just because people don't think, oh, I'm going to buy video games at Target.
Disclaimer. We're not being paid by Target right now. We're saying
no. We have
just making it clear.
0 sponsors at this point in time. Disclaimer. So another thing that was real fun too is that I got to take my daughter to her very first movie since she turned 3 years old. It actually went really well.
Was there the 3-year-olds in the theater, or was she the only one?
I did not go family to family to take a census of what was going on with the age of each child.
Stand up just as the lights are getting low. Yeah, 3-year-olds are there. Am I the only one?
Well, it's actually funny that you ask that just because we went to the movie called The Star, and it's a 3D animated film that tells the Christmas story of Mary, Joseph, and the birth of Jesus through the perspective of animals. That's cute. And so it's pretty funny considering that, King Herod did a census of the ages of all the kids. And
right.
You're basically King Herod.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
You're getting coal in your stocking.
You spoiled me.
But anyway.
Slap in the face. Spit in the
eye. What was really fun, though, was that the movie itself was actually really well produced. It was made by Sony Computer Animation, and it was kind of like a Shrek meets a Christmas Story kind of a thing. Like you actually had the main character was a donkey.
Was it by Eddie Murphy?
No, it wasn't Eddie Murphy. It was
no way.
It was actually somebody else, and I can't remember who it was, but it was someone else who's pretty well known. But anyway, I thought it was a really great romping. What was really fun was she sat in my lap for about 75% of the movie. And that was just, I don't know, as a dad, that's a really, really cool thing to just experience, where you're sitting there and her legs are dangling off your legs and she's eating popcorn in the movies for the first time, and seeing the screen and the audio quality and everything else for the first time has got to be just overwhelming for her. And there was a particular moment that I thought was just so cute. There was a scene where Mary, the character Mary in the movie, starts to break down because she doesn't think she can make it because, she's pregnant, she's on the donkey, all that kind of stuff. And Vivian actually got emotional. She did the little like frowny face, like she's about to cry, and she put her arm over her eyes and she was trying her best not to cry. And that was a really sweet moment for Leslie and I, just to be able to take that in. And it was just really nice for the wife and I to be able to kind of log that away as like an oh kind of moment. But it was neat too to see that she understood, she could see what was happening on screen and interpret that there was something serious going on, and have her react the way that you're supposed to react for that. It wasn't like she was just sitting there like, oh, whatever. And plus, the other thing that's really cool is that 3-year-olds are short enough that they can stand in the aisle and they will not block anybody.
Oh, that's true.
Behind us. So
I can almost visualize the face that she made, because when you grow up as a little kid, you start to cry if mom starts to cry, so that face, no, mom, don't cry, because if mom cries, everyone's gonna cry.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's your own kid, and I know I memorized that little pretty face of hers, and I can see her eyes start to well up and that frown start to form, and I'm thinking, in my mind, no, don't cry,
Yeah,
you should make me cry. I'm not gonna cry in a kids movie,
Think of something funny to do. Think of something funny to say. Yeah, you're trying your best. And she did really well. I would say right at the credits was when she was eating popcorn the whole time, and she went to rub her eye, and her eye got filled with salt from the popcorn. So she starts freaking out. But at that point, it was the credits. So I was like, okay, if everything's okay, let's break out a wipey and do what we got to do. But no, she did well.
Oh, she's crying at the end of the movie. She really liked it.
Yeah, she was really affected by that. Let's see. Oh, I don't know if I told you this, but the Joygasm.tv website was hacked. And luckily, it is back up and running again thanks to our awesome webmaster, Kim. A big thank you to her for taking care of that issue. But yeah, our website was down for 2 weeks. And the only way I realized that was I was going in to do some maintenance on it, and I actually went to the website first, and it starts to load the site, and all of a sudden the URL string all of a sudden switches from joygasm.tv to some random thing, and it does it 2 or 3 times, and all of a sudden I'm getting redirected to somewhere else. I'm like, oh no, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. So, of course, contact Kim up in a panic and be like, I don't know what's happening. You need to fix it. So. Luckily, that is back up and running again, so we are right as rain.
Back in business.
Back in business like we should be. I'm trying to think if there is anything else, but I think that's all. I mean, I've been kind of playing little sprinklings of games here and there, but nothing really worth mentioning.
I haven't even noticed you on online or Xbox Live, so you know what? I don't think you've been playing anything at all, Raj.
I'm trying to remember. I thought I played something else on my system. Oh, I did.
You did. You invited me too, and it was the night I was picking up my lovely lady, so I couldn't join you. But yeah, you were on. For sure, you were on.
What was I going to play, Steve?
Little Overwatch.
That's right. And I was trying out Moira for the first time. Have you tried her out?
No.
So I was giving her a test through, and I could see potential as to how she could be a good character. But overall, it's just not my play style. I'm going to have to...
It's not your bag, baby?
Well, not yet. I mean, each one of the characters that is in that game have various strengths and weaknesses and that sort of thing. And since she's just... I mean, it's weird because she's kind of a cross between Mercy and Reaper in a way. Yeah. With a little sprinkling of Zenyatta in there, thrown in for good measure. But I do think that she could be pretty good if you... Actually, there's also a sprinkling of Symmetra in there as well. It's interesting. I think that there is potential for her to be a great asset to the overall team and from a support capacity. I will also have you know, Steve.
Oh boy, here we go.
I began to play Assassin's Creed
Oh my goodness.
Black Flag.
You know what? A lot of people didn't like that one. I really
you
enjoyed
said
it.
you liked it.
No, I said a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it.
Okay. Because I remember you talking about it quite a bit, and actually our good old friend Brad, if I remember correctly, also liked that Assassin's Creed as well. So I started to play it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's
a good game.
I figured you get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I do.
Well, let's get into some gaming news, Steve. What do you say?
Ooh, let's do it.
To kick things off, Star Wars Battlefront 2's microtransactions were reportedly pulled after Disney expressed concerns to EA. Alex Osborne reports Electronic Arts' decision to pull microtransactions from Star Wars Battlefront 2 just before the game's launch reportedly came in the wake of concerns from Disney. Bob Iger, Disney's chief executive, was alarmed by the backlash from fans over how Battlefront 2's microtransactions were implemented. The Wall Street Journal heard from a person familiar with the matter. As a result, Jimmy Pitaro, the head of consumer products and interactive media at Disney, contacted EA detailing the company's concerns about the situation. Star Wars Battlefront 2 received a lot of criticism from players because of the high costs to unlock the game's top-tier hero characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. In response, EA lowered those costs before ultimately pulling microtransactions entirely from the game. Hours ahead of the game's launch in North America and after its launch in other territories, EA has confirmed that crystals cannot be purchased any longer to use toward in-game crates, which include star cards, emotes, and other resources. Instead, all progression and multiplayer will be accomplished via gameplay. Crystals used for microtransactions will be re-implemented at a later date. That's the key right there. They're planning on putting it back in.
I roll.
Quote, "We're turning off all in-game purchases," says DICE GM Oscar Gabrielson's statement reads, "We will now spend more time listening, adjusting, balancing, and tuning. This means that the option to pursue crystals in the game is now offline, and all progression will be earned through gameplay. The ability to purchase crystals in-game will become available at a later date, only after we've made changes to the game. We'll show more details as we work through this," end quote. Battlefront 2's devs have been continually addressing the negative feedback fans have had to the game's progression and loot crate system, including in a recent AMA ahead of its launch. During that Q&A session, the developers vowed to fix the progression system based on fan response. Quote, "We were incredibly saddened by the negative response from you, the community, on Reddit about the game," Associate Design Director Dennis Breneval said. "In fact, we hated it. We truly did, because we wanted to make a game that you love. We've made a really cool, fun, and beautiful game, but it was overshadowed by issues with the progression system. We will fix this."
Well, kudos for Disney for bringing that up, because when the first Star Wars Battlefront came out, it was only a quarter of a game that everybody expected.
Yeah.
And then so they go, we're going to make it right. We're going to make it the game you expected now. And people go, all right. And they go, well, here's now a bunch of microtransactions. Isn't that great? And you're like, what? No, you're supposed to, like, what? No, hold on. Like, we want to love the game. We want to play the game that you made. We want to love it. And that kind of stuff just puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
Well, and Star Wars is such a beloved franchise anyway. I mean, when you think of Disney getting involved, you know that they had people who were watching it, just making sure that it would have a successful launch. And EA getting too greedy in there, they're applying pressure to the developer DICE. And even when it comes to the gameplay mechanics of the crate system, you can do a crate system that is successful. Like, Overwatch
exactly
is a terrific example of how it works correctly, but you don't want to abuse it, because then you're going to really make the fans upset and angry. I think it's also worth noting that I believe it's Belgium, but there are certain countries in Europe that are starting to look into the whole microtransaction model. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was Belgium that has, I think, almost outlawed the use of microtransactions in games, stating that it is a form of gambling.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how that spreads. Like, will that spread through other areas of Europe and ultimately the globe? Because it's to them, they view it as predatory gameplay on minors. Where you have kids who are they're addicted to the game. They want to get the best stuff, so they're putting more and more money on this. It's basically a chance card, is what it is, because you don't know what you're going to get. It's not like you're putting money in to get something that's promised. You're putting it in with the chance that you'll get something. So it's pretty interesting overall. Moving right along, redesigned Xbox avatars. This is something that I was actually pretty interested in. I've always liked the avatar system from the Xbox 360. Apparently, it's getting delayed until next year. John Wilds reports Microsoft's new and improved Xbox avatars have missed their autumn release window and likely been delayed until next year. Well, that's one of those things that I'm fine with. Personally, I think it's totally cool. I want them to make sure they do that right, just because I think that was actually one of the strongest aspects to the Xbox 360 in terms of feeling like you were part of this gaming community.
Right.
The idea that you can actually create your own character, be able to customize how they look, and it had this uncanny, like, familiarity to you as I knew it was you looking at your avatar or looking at our friends. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that is something that I missed when Xbox One was initially launched. I'm glad to see that they're going to bring that back. Wolfenstein 2 Wolfenstein. The new Colossus DLC release dates announced. This is something I'm very excited about. As well, you should be as well. Sarah, are you excited about this? You should be. She's smiling and she has nothing to say. Okay. But
she's playing Mario Kart. She's happy right now.
Yeah, I think I distracted her from Mario Kart. I'm sorry, Sarah. You keep playing. Bethesda announced the first of the three DLC packs will release in December, with the final pack releasing in March, just in time for my birthday. Players who pre-ordered Wolfenstein 2 have already received Episode 0 as a bonus, but players who didn't pre-order can get it as part of the season pass. Episode 0 introduces players to the characters they will play in each DLC pack, fighting for freedom in the Nazi-occupied American territories. I believe I do have that one. Bethesda and Machine Games will release the first DLC pack, called The Adventures of Gunslinger Joe. That's an awesome title, by the way. On December 14th. Players will take control of Joseph Stalin, Joseph. That sounds
great. Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah.
Joseph Stallion. How about that? A former NFL quarterback who fights back against the Nazi menace from Chicago to space. Players will be able to customize their airships, choose between 5 different classes, and create their own quests. A closed beta will arrive sometime in the first half of 2018. The second pack, called The Diaries of Agent Silent Death. These names are just great. It releases on January 30th and will focus on the exploits of ex-OSS agent Jessica Valiant, an assassin who will fight for the Nazi war machine in California to uncover the secrets of Operation San Andreas. The final DLC pack, The Amazing Deeds of Captain... I don't know what this is. It's like... I'm just going to go with Captain Wickens, comes out in March of 2018 and focuses on U.S. Army hero Captain Gerald Wickens, who travels to Alaska to stop Nazi Operation Black Sun.
Black Sun and White Alaska. Huh?
I know, there's just whole lots of fun, creative writing right there. And that's about it for gaming news, so I say we go right back into some movie news. What do you think, Asti? Do you remember Moviepass?
Yes.
We talked about that a little while back, about how you could subscribe and you could save a ton of money, which neither one of us did. We were interested in doing that. And
didn't AMC say they were not going to participate in the program?
I think they were looking at possibly bowing out of it, but I don't know what the current status is. Anyway, apparently Moviepass lowers price again temporarily. After announcing its new price model earlier this year, the theatrical subscription service Moviepass has lowered his
Someone needs to put some bourbon in his coffee to slow him down.
Sloshing over my words. Yeah.
And now, there you go. Totally unintentional.
The service Moviepass has lowered its subscription price to under $7 a month, but this is only on a temporary basis. They announced a new 1-year subscription plan that costs $89.95, which includes a $6.55 processing fee, of course. And it will only be offered for a limited time. This deal nets out to under $7 a month. However, you'll have to pay for that 1-year price in advance. So in terms of the existing Moviepass customers who subscribe because of the recent price drop to their, the $9.95 per month, they will be able to receive a 25% discount from their current plan if they choose to subscribe to the 1-year lump sum plan. $7. I mean, so as if $9.95 wasn't like awesome enough, now you can get it for $7. We've got to jump on this.
For cheesy, Russ.
The amount of movies that we've seen, I mean...
I know, it pretty much paid for itself.
It really does. Batman rumor. This is a big one.
Oh.
Jake Gyllenhaal might replace Ben Affleck.
Well, pretty much anybody who's going to replace Ben Affleck, I'm going to be pretty positive and encouraged by. So I think it's good, man.
Well, Brian Barnett reported that new rumors state that Jake Gyllenhaal might replace Ben Affleck as Batman in upcoming DC films. Affleck has stated his desire to make a cool exit from playing the character, and if he does so before The Batman, which is that's what the next movie is going to be called, is The Batman. Movie pundit John Campy says director Matt Reeves has his eyes set on Jake Gyllenhaal as his first pick to don the cape and cowl via Screen Rant. If Jake replaces Affleck as the Cape Crusader, it would be the second time a Gyllenhaal stepped up to help the Bat franchise out, as his sister, Maggie, took over the role of Rachel Dawes in The Dark Knight.
Nice.
What are your thoughts on the possibility of Jake being the Batman?
I am optimistic, Russ. Number one, I can't stand Ben Affleck in pretty much anything. Very, very rare do I ever see him in a good movie. And my humble opinion, of course. Okay. But no, I really can't. After seeing Justice League, I don't want to see another movie with him in it. I came into that movie with already in the hole because I don't care for Ben Affleck. And then I saw it. I'm like, yep, reaffirmed. He ain't Batman. I'm sorry. So somebody else. I don't care really who it is. Anybody but Ben Affleck, right?
I'm a little on the fence about Jake Gyllenhaal. I've seen some of his other work, and he has a very unique acting style, and even his look is pretty unique. I mean, I could see that there could be potential there for it.
Right.
I just don't know if he's the perfect fit.
Yeah.
When I compare him to, say, Christian Bale or Michael Keaton, I mean, those guys.
True. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a toss-up for sure. But already, I'm just saying, I'm optimistic.
There you go.
Period of anybody else.
It's going to be optimistic. Quentin Tarantino reportedly wants Tom Cruise for his next film.
I almost thought you were going to say Quentin Tarantino was Batman, but anyway. Can you imagine that?
That'd be weird. According to Deadline, Cruise is on the short list of candidates who've spoken with Tarantino about starring in one of the film's 2 lead male roles. As previously reported, Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are also being considered. Whether all 3 of them might appear in the film or just 2 remains unclear. In addition to Pitt, DiCaprio, and Cruise, the potential cast of Tarantino's 9th and... Well, really, I mean, it is number 9, right? His 9th movie.
Probably.
Yeah, I believe so. It's his 9th movie. Will, of course, include Samuel L. Jackson, but also Margot Robbie, who the latter of whom is rumored to play Manson's murder victim, Sharon Tate. I had to actually do a Google search on the whole Manson story because I'm a little rusty on all that stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to be focusing necessarily on what Manson did with his little cult, or if he's just going to do a movie that happens to be during that time frame, and maybe that plays kind of a secondary role into his particular plot. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely piqued my interest to see how he's gonna use the material. But
yeah.
This is one that make you happy, Steve. Wonder Woman 2 Gal Gadot confirms Brett Ratner not involved.
Nice.
On the Today Show, Gadot addressed the recent report, claiming she wouldn't return to star in Wonder Woman 2 if Ratner, who has been accused of sexual misconduct, remains involved with the franchise. According to the actress, before the report even surfaced, Ratner and his production company, Rat Pack Dune Entertainment, were no longer involved with the DC film franchise. Quote, "There was nothing for me to actually come and say because it was already done before this article came out," Gadot said. The Wonder Woman star also noted that she isn't the only one working on the film who feels this way. Quote, "There are so many people involved in making this movie. It's not just me." And they all echoed the same sentiment, she said. Quote, "Everyone knew what was the right thing to do. So there you go.
Plus, they listen to Joygasm too, and so
Yeah.
all input I have, yeah.
What? Yeah, we'll run with that.
Yeah, there you go.
And the final story I have on here, which will actually kind of segue into our topic of the day, which is that Justice League fails to excite Friday box office numbers. As reported by Forbes, the latest DC film from Warner Brothers debuted to a $38.8 million on Friday, which includes $4.5 million in IMAX sales. This figure just barely eclipses Wonder Woman's $38 million Friday debut and is well behind Marvel Studios' latest Thor Ragnarok, which made $46 million on opening day. Justice League's opening day is also far lower than other DC films, including Suicide Squad, Man of Steel, and Batman vs. Superman, which debuted to $65 million, $56 million, and $81 million respectively.
Suicide Squad?
I do think it's important to note that the domestic total for the film's weekend debut, I believe, came in at around $94 million, which, again, that number is no slouch, but at the same time, if you compare it to like the Avengers or some of the other ones, when you look at the opening weekends, they were, I think, anticipating the numbers to be more like 110 to 120 million during the opening weekend. So that is your movie news, Steve.
Well, thank you, Roz.
I definitely have not a qualm about Steve. You are most certainly welcome. Well, I think as Sarah's about to discover, there comes a point in this program when, you know, it's all about just the topic of the day. Oh! And I do believe that time is now! You can put Sarah down back on the floor, Steve. She was hoisting her up in the air like
some finger skating.
Yeah, I was gonna say like some Olympic figure skaters, and she had a little bit of a fright look on her face there. That was good. And somehow leaves are falling from the sky. I don't know how that happens because we're in a studio.
Leaves and glitter.
Glitter, yeah. Some sort of spotlight came down. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
So our topic of the day is
Justice League.
That's right, the Justice League movie review. Steve,
What?
actually, you know,
What?
I'm going to say it this way. Steve and Sarah went to go with me to, I was a third wheel. I just realized this. It was going to be kind of a double date thing, but then the wife had some other things that she had to take care of. So the three of us, the three amigos, well, amiga y amigos, something along those lines. We went to go check it out. Disclaimer, we had already heard from different news outlets as well as our different friends who had already seen it, that it was not going to be as good as the Avengers, but we wanted to go and see it just to get kind of an alignment, if you will, on what has been shown. And so, I believe we're going to do what we always do, which is we're going to begin by giving our high-level impressions of the film and then drill down into the following categories, which include cast, plot, script, cinematography, soundtrack, and costumes. And when we go into the drill down part, we will definitely let you know when that happens because we will be having spoilers throughout this segment of the program. We definitely don't want to ruin it for any of you lovely folks out there. So I think I'm going to ping pong it back over to Steve here. Give me some of your high level thoughts of the film.
I enjoyed the scenes with the Flash in it, and I enjoyed some of the a lot of the beginning. There was definitely some gold nuggets scattered throughout that I enjoyed. I felt the pacing was off quite a bit. And I wanted some more backstory. I wanted like an extra probably 45 minutes of the movie, because when you're introducing new characters, when you've already had backstory with Wonder Woman and especially Batman, We have had a little bit of backstory with the Flash, but maybe some people are going into this for the first time. We haven't seen the backstory of the Flash, aka me.
Right.
That's on my Netflix list, but I haven't watched it yet. We just get glimpses, but we don't get all this extra goodness that we want, and so that I felt that the pacing was definitely off, and it wasn't as long as I would hope. But that, like I said, there was definitely some nuggets in there that I enjoyed, but overall, I was a little bit less than thrilled.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to get out of the way. Ben Affleck was terrible as Batman.
Oh,
he was
freaking awful.
His acting was completely flat. Honestly, I knew that going in.
Yeah.
I remember just when it comes to the announcements. I should say when it came to the announcements back in the day when I was at Comic-Con, and Zack Snyder had given this big one of who would play Batman because Christian Bale was stepping down. And I remember on Twitter is where he announced it, and I was just absolutely against it because I knew that he was not a good fit for the role. And going to the film, I mean, you just watching it, it was painful.
Well, not to mention, I think they mistreated his character in the whole entire movie. He felt like a complete afterthought.
He did, and yet he did not feel like Bruce Wayne or Batman. But we'll get into that a little bit later. However, I really enjoyed the rest of the cast. I do think that Joss Whedon, if you recall, he's the one who directed the Avengers, and he was brought in to do quite a bit of kind of the rewrites and some of the editing and that sort of thing toward the end of the production. I think he provided a glimpse into what this film could have been if he had directed it from start to finish.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of the dialogue that we were listening to was from him. I mean, like you had like let me back up a bit. It wasn't a lot of the dialogue, but a lot of the dialogue that was memorable was from him. And you could tell because it was very Joss Whedon-ish. You know, it was like very Avengers-ish. And that kind of thing just works when it comes to a team-based film. But I mean, again, I think the chemistry of all the characters was the saving grace of the film. I think that the film's trailers really spoiled just about every decent part of the movie.
Seemed to be an ongoing theme this year.
Well, they need to take a cue from Disney and Marvel Studios in how to do a proper marketing campaign for a superhero movie. You know, they're really, really good at creating trailers that don't give too much away, that actually do a lot of misdirection in terms of like what people are expecting the story to be. And then when you go, you're like, wow, this was like not at all what the trailer was leading us on to be. And it's so vital that marketing campaigns they need to keep a cap on it, because unfortunately that was the case. Like I would be watching these movie trailers for Justice League, and all the stuff that they were showing were the different scenes that got me interested in wanting to see the film in the first place. And then I come to the stark realization that, oh, wow, they don't have a whole lot else in terms of the surprises.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, overall, it was what I expected it to be based on what I heard before seeing the flick. I do absolutely love the fact that Danny Elfman provided the score. I don't know if you realize this, but certain scenes where you did see Batman, did you notice in the music, they actually brought back the 1989 Tim Burton, like Batman score? I
heard some notes with it. I did read that fact also, but it wasn't prominent enough as what I would want it to be.
Yeah.
That I would have like smacked you in the middle of the theater.
Yeah.
You know, so I wish it was more so, but
we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But I do, from a high level standpoint, I was glad to see Danny Elfman was the one doing the score for it. So look at this. Steve's getting like the 5-star treatment from his girlfriend over here. She just put a blanket over Steve while we're
freezing.
talking. I feel good. I got my coffee that you brought for me.
I can smell your coffee too. Yeah.
Did you have any other high-level thoughts on the Justice League movie before we go into our elevator, Steve?
No, Russ. I really want to get in an elevator.
Well, it's a good thing I already pressed the button because now we're in here. Oh, and Sarah's in here too. This is the first time that she has experienced the spoiler elevator.
Do you have any high-level thoughts?
You know, if you guys want to, you guys can make out in the corner. I'll just turn my back on you. It's all good. I can just look at my iPhone and have fun. It's great. I suppose I should tell you folks that once this elevator gets to our floor, it'll be the spoiler floor. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want any spoilers said to you, now's the time to pause the podcast. However, if you don't care or if you've seen the movie, by all means, stay with us.
It's quite the view up here, Russ. And this from this high-level floor we're about to get off on.
You know, I noticed they took the walls off the elevator. We have the kind of this glass pane thing going. It kind of reminds me of Vegas.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I hear there's a sky pool up there. Yeah.
Here we are. Okay, so now we're heading into the drill down spoiler version of.
Now I really get to piss and moan about Ben Affleck.
All right, so let's start off with cast. For me, okay, look, first and foremost, let's start off with someone who I personally just was like, yes, about. Big fat yes. Jason Momoa
Yeah.
was brilliant as Aquaman.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is there has been, as you well know, Steve, a stigma surrounding the character for a long time, with folks scoffing at the character and not taking him seriously. I'm here to tell you folks, Jason squelches this, and I found myself becoming an Aquaman fan. And I think it's also worth noting that during the movie, I received a text from my wife who absolutely just loves Jason Momoa. She thinks he's just freaking hot. I think like if she could have Jason Momoa and Chris Hemsworth together, that would be like her ultimate threesome. Anyway, she texts me and she asked me, she's like, you should take some pictures of him while you're there at the theater for me. So I ended up doing that. I ended up taking like 3 pictures and she was laughing. I don't think she actually thought I was going to do that. But what did you think of his performance?
I thought he did well. I wish they were going to change his look up a little bit. I haven't seen a whole lot of his work, but when I saw him, I thought he looked the same from Frontiersman, I think, or Frontier or something like that. He's in a Netflix series. He looks exactly the same. I don't think he has the highlights in his hair and obviously the Aquaman tattoos. But he also wasn't he also in Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
So he looks to me he looks like the same in Game of Thrones and is in Frontier.
Well, I mean, he has like in Game of Thrones, he also had tattoos. They're not the same tattoos.
Yeah,
obviously.
right. Yeah.
And he had kind of that more stoic.
But he's still got the beard and the long hair and those real arcing eyebrows.
And I think that's kind of his signature look.
Right, but yeah. Anyway, but I mean, like for example, Aquaman looks different in Injustice 2 than he looks in the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. In Injustice 2, they took more of a classic comic book approach, and that's fine. But I think when it comes to the movie, see, that was one of the things that I was really unsure about back when they were doing the casting for this during pre-production. And when they said that Jason Momoa was cast, I actually grinned. I was like, ooh, that is a good choice. Like, it's not one that like I would have thought of as my first choice just from a look standpoint. Because like to your point, you know, the classic version of Aquaman, you know, he has blonde hair, he's clean shaven. There's just a different overall look. But I think in terms of his look, like I cannot think of anyone else who I would rather play this role just because, like I said earlier, I mean, the challenge, one of the biggest challenges of this character is to completely silence the stigma of what I was talking about how Aquaman is just kind of the silly character. I mean, yeah, there are fans who do follow Aquaman, but as you know, a character lineup, you know, where you have Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, whatever, you know, Aquaman is just always it's just Aquaman.
Yeah.
I gotta say, my hat goes off to him because I absolutely loved what he did with the character. Yeah, he didn't have as much of a refinement. He was kind of more of like a savage version of Aquaman. But I kind of dig that though. This is kind of cool. Like just every like scene he was in, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Moving right along to Ezra Miller as the Flash, I thought also was great. I mean, really, the only thing that bugged me was the way he ran. Like his body movement was a bit off. What
are you doing, dude? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't really put my finger on it, but just his body movement was just kind of funky. But the persona that he gave, I thought was just great. I mean, like especially in a superhero movie like that, where you have all these warriors, right? And the fact that he didn't know how to fight.
Yeah.
And he also was scared. I mean, that was one of the nice things I think gave his character depth, was that, he was being placed in these situations that were, I mean, honestly, life and death situations. And again, he's not a fighter.
I'm really fast, but all I know how to do is push people.
But I like that.
Right, I know.
how he was just transparent. He's like, look, all I've ever done is just kind of nudge people and then run away. And I thought, man, that is so cool, because you run the risk of becoming one-dimensional as a team if everybody's tough and everyone's a fighter and I'm not afraid of nothing. You know, like all that kind of stuff. Like
I'm a superhero.
What did you think?
I thought he was very refreshing in the movie, and I definitely want to go watch the Netflix series sooner than later, and I will hope he has his own movie coming up soon, and I hope they pay him some good respect, like Dark Knight respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the movie would be nearly as strong without him. I did like his sense of humor. You know what? One of my favorite scenes in the movie was when they resurrect Superman, and he's flying around trying to do something, not flying around, running around, trying to say, Superman had who in his hand? He had Wonder Woman and he had Aquaman, right? Or was
I think so, yeah.
And so he was trying to be a distraction, and he noticed that Superman was watching him, and I'm like, oh, snap.
That seriously was one of my favorite scenes from the whole movie. I mean, that whole sequence where all of a sudden you're like, oh no.
Yeah, and his expressions during that whole thing, both expressions were fantastic. That was one of my favorite scenes. That was definitely one of the gold nuggets.
It was.
Although I will say, in the comics, if I'm not mistaken, anyone can correct me, because I didn't follow the Flash that much. Superman's fast, but he's not as fast as the Flash.
You know what? I cannot comment on that because I'm not in the know when it comes to all that. Like when it comes to the DC universe, like Batman is my character, as you know.
Right.
I have just a peripheral understanding of like Green Lantern or the Flash. I mean, even Superman, like I don't really know all the ins and outs. I mean, I have, like I said, a kind of a peripheral understanding, but when it comes to all those like nitty gritty things, it'd be worth asking our friends who are like diehard DC fans to find out like just what it is. Like I work with somebody who is this huge Flash fan. So I'll ask him and see, although he may be biased, he may try and say, oh, the Flash is faster.
Yeah. I can't. I think if I'm not mistaken, that he was supposed to be the fastest person in the world.
I do believe, if that were to be the case, then I don't think I would be that surprised. I mean, Superman also is like super fast.
Yeah.
If you recall in I can't remember which Superman film it was, but back in the Christopher Reeve days, he was flying so quickly in the opposite direction that he actually caused the Earth to like, reverse its axis, and then as a result, actually like reverse time, which actually is kind of a cousin to what the Flash can do. The Flash actually can go so fast he can actually go back in time and alter stuff and everything else. So yeah, I mean that's a very good question.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Russ.
Not a problem. Going down the list here, Henry Cavill again. I am a big fan of Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's a wonderful Superman.
Guy was ripped. I saw a workout video with that he did prior to the movie. They're having him do all this stuff, and I'm sorry, I did cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
I want to see more of Mr. Cavill in movies, and I really enjoyed it. Some people thought that the scenes with him and Lois and Superman's mother, I can't. Her name is I can't remember her name.
I'm having a brain freeze.
Anyway, so I really enjoyed all those scenes with the three of them in it.
Yeah.
because I'm love the character depth with these folks, and
Right.
so to me that was not slow. And he owns Superman. I was
He
grateful to see
does,
him.
dude.
You know, one thing though, I wanted to see in the movie, I wish they would have given him a different costume, because he had some different costumes in the comic book. He always had his blue suit with the red S and everything, but he did at some point later on have more of a black costume. I'm not sure if that was when he was resurrected or not, but
That may have been like a multiverse thing or something.
maybe, yeah.
No, I thought he was great. It's a pity. I don't know if you know this, but like they had to do a bunch of reshoots.
I know.
And so he was working on another film at that
Yeah,
time. He had the
yeah.
mustache.
Yeah.
Apparently, they had to like replace his mustache with a CG like upper lip,
Right.
and you can totally tell
It's terrible.
it's distracting.
It's way distracting. And I knew it was going to be there. I mean, a lot of people were talking about it. Some people said, oh, it's just small. You can get over it. And I could not get over it. And they really did him a disservice, I feel like, because this is his career. You know, he's an actor. And
Well-
he looks silly. You know what he looked like? You remember that if you're watching like Conan O'Brien or something on TV, and they do some skit and they superimpose the mouth
Yeah.
on some character, like a cartoon character
Yeah.
or a painting or something like that. The mouth is abnormally big and smiley. That's what it looked like to me in the film. I thought they just did him a disservice.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
Well, and I go back and forth with it too, just because the added scenes really did infuse a bit more exposition and depth to the movie. I mean, I think if those scenes were not in the film, it would have been even more shallow of a film. So I'm caught because on the one hand, I'm glad they put those scenes in. At the same time, it's like, that just almost ruins those scenes.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gal Gadot was lovely as always,
She's a jewel.
playing Wonder Woman. I appreciated in this particular film her ferocity. I think that one of the crazy things about this film in particular was just all the fighting scenes. I mean, she really held her own. I would say when you watch the Wonder Woman movie itself, you saw some things going on, but it was kind of more straightforward. Like, oh, she's blocking a bullet with her gauntlets or something to that effect, or she's jumping, but you don't really get to see her like actually fighting. And so that was actually a big plus for me is the scenes where she's fighting the villain just one-on-one. I mean, that was pretty epic, I thought.
It was good. I wanted more, and maybe just because I loved the Wonder Woman movies so much, I felt like they could have given her some more screen time fighting, and they didn't. I know they had a lot of characters they had to give screen time to, so they had to split it up, but I wanted a little bit more from her.
So another thing too that I want to get your opinion on is before I went into this film, I heard that they tried to sexualize her, saying like, oh, there's a lot of like cleavage shots or like, booty shots or whatever. But I honestly didn't see it. Did you see? I mean, like I heard that like when she was fighting, like, oh, they changed her costume. Her costume looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
I didn't see any kind of major differences. Like there was like one time when like, I think she was walking around in like civilian clothes and she had a little bit of cleavage there. But I mean, it wasn't the way that people were saying it online. It was like her whole like Wonder Woman outfit was changed and like you could see all this stuff. And I'm like,
I think I have an answer for you because I saw an interview with her on one of these night comedy shows, and she was saying that many of the Wonder Woman fans were displeased with Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman because she didn't have the bust as the fans wanted to, that they were used to from the Wonder Woman comic, which is pretty stupid if I'm going to be honest and blunt, because she's a beautiful woman and she's got a phenomenal figure. So I think the creators of Justice League wanted to satisfy some of those fans that were making it known on social media that they were displeased with it. And so they go, okay, well, we're obviously not going to pay for her to have, all this surgery. That'd be ridiculous. And so I think they wanted to give her a mild sexuality with the civilian clothes without actually changing her costume, because a lot of people love.
oh, that costume,
is
like, don't change it.
Ridiculous.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Oh, but you know what? I know we'll get to costume in a minute, but I love how when she was speaking with Bruce Wayne, that one scene, how she put on that it was kind of a red scarf, but I don't know what that was called, but kind of a capey, scarf.
Shawl?
My F's and P's are starting to sound the same. So that was cool. Yeah. That was a nice little addition, but.
Now, Ray Fisher as Cyborg was refreshing too. What do you think of him?
I liked him as a choice for Cyborg, but again, I think the creators of the movie did him a disservice because more time was spent with him kind of interacting with stuff and making it work and analyzing. And I thought, man, he's a really interesting character.
Absolutely.
And I loved the actor who was playing Cyborg. But again, I thought, okay, he's got all these abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, he can transform into like whatever he wants. And they just kind of showed him interacting with a bunch of stuff and then shooting something every once in a while. And I thought, man, no, this character is complex and he's interesting, and they didn't give us anything.
Well, I thought his approach to the character was striking in that he was even keel.
Throughout you for sure.
Yeah, I felt like that approach gave him a bit of mystique. And it was just cool because I think that was one of the strengths of the film was each one of these characters had their own distinct personality.
Right.
And I think that had Cyborg been a bit more bombastic or whatever, I think his character's uniqueness would have been lost.
Right.
And so it was cool to see, like, just he was very, I hate to use the word calculating because he's a cyborg, but just the idea of him just having that even keel, but there is an intensity that's there too. I don't know. I just thought that was cool. And to your point, I found myself wanting to know more about his backstory. I wanted to know more about that standalone exposition. So
speaking of Cyborg, they put in his father. His father got some screen time, and I had to slap you in the theater because that was Joe Morton. Joe Morton from Terminator 2, who was I guess the CEO of Skynet.
Maybe not CEO, but he was a high bigwig.
Yeah. But it was cool seeing him on the screen. I was like, yes, that's awesome.
The connection between Terminator 2 and Cyborg. Yeah. No, I'm sure the fans were digging that. Amy Adams.
I love Amy Adams.
Filled the role nicely once again as Lois Lane. I think she brings kind of an accessibility to the film. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm glad she was in it. I know her time was a little bit short, and I get it. And but I love her as Lois Lane.
Yeah.
I love her even more if she was Belle in Beauty and the Beast, but I digress.
Was she considered for the role or something?
My girlfriend and I were talking about it, and we came to that conclusion. We were looking at pictures back and forth between Emma Thompson, Emma Watson,
or
Emma. Go through the alphabet here. We'll get it right.
Yeah.
So, we really want Amy Adams as Belle in Beauty and the Beast, but for Lois, for sure.
So Jeremy Irons, I felt, was not a good fit for Alfred.
No.
I am a fan of him as an actor.
For sure.
But I didn't feel as though he was suited for the role of Alfred. I just felt like it was just, like it was like trying to fit like a circle peg into a square hole. It was like, no.
I think if they took the very, very first Alfred from the Keaton Batman and put him in that place, how much richer would have been,
Yeah.
You know?
I think he's, oh man. Yeah.
He might not be still with us, but sorry to say.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons is an awesome Commissioner Gordon, I thought.
I love him, but I still see him as running the Daily Bugle in Spider-Man.
Going in, up, fired. I don't want to see you again.
That's pretty good. You sound like him.
He's cool. I do like him, but when he was playing that serious role as Commissioner Gordon, I was almost just anticipating he was going to switch into the other role. But regardless, he did a great job. He was fine. I just couldn't get the other actor out of my head.
Well, I thought it was sad because he was hardly in this film.
Yeah,
I mean, you saw him just a scant few scenes. I was like, oh man, I want to see more of this.
Well, hopefully we will when the next Batman movie comes out. I hope they keep him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I don't know what the plan is, but yeah, I think that
would be expected.
He looks and acts just like Commissioner Gordon. It's just great.
Mustache works. That's the one time the mustache works in these later films.
Now to go back to what you talked about with regards to Joe Morton.
Yeah.
Once again, I thought that he was an excellent choice for Cyborg's dad. I thought that the two of them played off of each other nicely. You could see the conflict in his face because he's the one who, in an act of desperation, was trying to save his son's life and therefore turned his son into what he is. And now he's having to deal with the repercussions of that.
I thought he did handle that role very, very well, because that could have been easily gone over dramatic or way out of whack, and it didn't. He held it all together. And I hope we get a Cyborg movie too, and I hope he's in it. Like, I want to see that play out.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, Ben Affleck was just awful.
Oh, it's trash.
From the moment that, like I said, that Zack Snyder announced he would be playing Batman, I just, in my opinion, this was a miscast. I want to be clear that Ben is a good actor, and I enjoy his performances in other movies, but this is just a role that needs someone else who can fulfill the dark complexities of Bruce Wayne. I don't think, personally, this is just my opinion, I just don't think that Ben Affleck is the correct person for this role. I think that Christian Bale was an excellent choice. I think that he was able to carry the mantle of Bruce Wayne exceptionally well, and that's not something that's easy to do if you really know just who Bruce Wayne as a character is.
Right.
So I don't know if we need to keep beating that dead horse over and over again, but
his face, he looked wrong in the suit, and his face looked kind of mashed in the mask in a way. It looked kind of like a pudgy, like, okay, put this on here. He just didn't work. Every time he was on screen,
Let me be clear. Every time he was on screen, I was cringing.
The acting was just flat and everything else. I was always thinking to myself, what would this film have been like if Christian Bale reprised his role as Batman?
Yeah.
Because I think as kind of a geek dream, it would have been really cool to see how Christian Bale played off of Henry Cavill.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I think that would have been epic.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's segue over to plot. I thought the plot was a snore fest, partly because the trailers gave everything away, but also the villain was just cliche. I mean, how cliche can you get? You have some strong demonic character that comes down through a warping wormhole, and there's no backstory or whatever. I mean, you're just like, okay,
I'm here. I'm evil. I'm taking over. Rawr.
Yeah, I was just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. There's too many scenes of action and not enough of the development of the characters. And so whenever there was action, it was just kind of boring. Like I really didn't care. I wasn't like, my heart wasn't racing or anything like that. Superman, of course, took him out, no problem. But honestly, I feel like any of the other characters, they've just got pissed off enough. They could have just easily taken him out, no problem.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't like him as a villain, and of course, we've had this conversation many times, but I want to love the villain.
Right.
And he's not memorable. He was passable.
You've got to have a villain that you love to hate.
Yeah.
I mean, just all the best villains, when you think of cinema, they're a pillar to the success of that particular film.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers and DC, I'm gonna give you like my take on this. So Warner Brothers and DC has this obsession with trying to not follow what Marvel Studios has done with its MCU timeline. And my timeline, I'm talking about like what Marvel Studios does, this thing where they have these standalone films. So you have Captain America, you have Iron Man, you have Incredible Hulk, so on and so forth. And even the smaller characters like Black Widow or Hawkeye, they feed them into these other films as well. So you're getting to know them little by little. And like I said, like for some reason they're trying not to follow what Marvel Studios has done, and this is a mistake. In my mind, there's absolutely nothing wrong with mimicking at a high level what they have created. And so if you think about like just a high level, I'm not saying like copy the story or anything, but just
yeah.
If you start out like, you introduce each one of these characters, have their own standalone films first, and you dole it out like that, and then you get to the team-based epic event. At that point, you have fans from the masses that have just invested themselves in these characters. They know their backstory, they know their exposition, and so now they're ready to root for everybody.
Right.
I don't know, since they had to introduce Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg in this film, it ate up precious time that could have been focused on more exposition. Also, this film could have, like to your point, could have been longer.
Of course.
Apparently, they cut it down due to fears people would think it was too long because Batman versus Superman, I guess, was like 3 hours, and they were like, "Man, that movie was way too long. It was like an hour too long." What they should have done was just flip-flop that, where Batman versus Superman was like 2 hours, and then let this one be 3 hours because you had to have that much time due to the sheer number of characters in the movie.
Well, I think. Well, finish your thought. I want to continue. I have a point that stems off from yours.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, as a result, the story just felt rushed with not enough time given to flesh out the new protagonists or the villain for that matter. I mean, it's right to your point.
So I think pride may be an issue. Like you said, they're not copying anything that Marvel is doing by giving you all these separate movies at once that are all going to blossom into one big group effort movie. And so when it's Marvel, and granted, we're going to compare Marvel to DC, and it's just going to be obvious. And we had the Batman movies in the beginning, and we loved them. I mean, they're phenomenal. They're a 5-star, and that's anybody's going to say that. Even if you're not even a fan of DC Comics, if you were to see Christopher Nolan's Batman series, he brings him to real life. He brings him out of the comic books, places him in real life, and makes him believable. Makes the entire story believable.
Right.
We got Wonder Woman, which is also a very, very good movie, and so they have wonderful elements that are all like these golden puzzle pieces. And then they just jumble them all together and like they're like trying to pound a puzzle together to make a picture, and it doesn't work.
Right.
And so it felt extremely rushed. And now I'm like, okay, if I'm not a fan of these, if I'm coming into this new, am I really going to care at this point of going into the backstory and rewatching this stuff? Like, to me, they're doing this like this complete disservice to all these wonderful pieces that they created initially to make this good.
Right. Well, let's pivot to script while we're talking about kind of the plot lines and stuff. The dialogue had a few moments of surprise, such as the big guns. I like that when Batman actually said, Alfred, bring out the big guns. I'm thinking, who the heck is the big guns?
Yeah.
And I loved how it was Lois Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, that just was just perfectly executed. I also thought that Wonder Woman knowing Cyborg was eavesdropping on her private conversation with Bruce Wayne was a nice little surprise in there. And the scene where Aquaman unknowingly begins to spill the truth about their dire situation from
was another gold nugget.
Yeah, from Wonder Woman's lasso of truth secretly placed around his leg or whatever. I was like, that was good.
He was sitting on it, yeah. And then like at the end of the movie when they have those criminals that they arrested, they're all lassoed with the whip, right? And they all just giving away everything. Yeah, this is what we were thinking, and this is what we were doing. This is where you can find everybody else or hide out. They're just giving the cops all the details.
Yeah. Yeah, the rest of it was pretty standard fare. I mean, it worked for what it was, but it was nothing that was just really stood out to me. Like, if I were to compare this to Man of Steel,
you can't.
I loved the story of Man of Steel, the script, the plot. I mean, just
yeah, you had again another phenomenal movie. Man of Steel was wonderful.
Yeah,
gives me goosebumps. And then, one thing that one sequence that was pretty cool was we already mentioned it before when the Flash is speaking to his fears and he's saying, I don't like bugs, and I don't like guns, and I'm scared here. All I can do is run quick. And then Bruce Wayne said, just save one person.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's cool. Okay. We're all in this together. Don't fight. Go save people. We'll leave the fighting up to us. And I thought, okay, I get that. I can stand behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there was nuggets, but mostly forgettable.
Yeah. Yeah. Cinematography, they had plenty for the eyes to drink in. The director of photography was Fabian Wagner, who works mostly on TV shows such as Game of Thrones, Sherlock, and a ton of others. I was looking at his IMDb profile. I was like, wow, this guy's done an absolute ton of stuff. I really appreciated how this film was not so desaturated, but still maintained a mature visual approach. I never saw Batman versus Superman. I intentionally, just boycotted because it was just not what I wanted to see.
You don't want the memories to be tainted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Christopher Nolan did such a wonderful job with like the Batman trilogy. I was like, oh, I'm going to just maintain it right there. But yeah, it was interesting how like even with Man of Steel was very desaturated.
Right.
And so it was nice to see that they started bringing the colors back in for this one. Not a ton. I mean, it's not as colorful as the Marvel efforts. It's not to that level. But it was nice. I felt like I was happy with kind of the visual motif that they were going for that.
There were certain sequences that were way better than others, though. I mean, that whole scene with on the island with the Amazonian women, that was incredible. That leapt off the comic book pages, and that was magical to me.
Right.
I was in comic book heaven right there. But it only lasted like 10 seconds. Well, not more than 10 seconds, but if they made a movie of just that, it was all like, it was epic to Lord of the Rings level, what that was.
Yeah.
We had the lanterns, and they had different species. I mean, I love that stuff. And then they just give me, that morsel. And I thought, this is so well done. It reminded me of that Pegasus scene from Thor Ragnarok, which I wanted to see there. Yeah. And it didn't give it to us. And then, so there were... See, I'm flip-flopped with the cinematography because at some point they doused it with over CG, and I wanted something different. I wish they wouldn't have done that. But then they had the gold nuggets, so as the scene I just mentioned, and then the other scene where Steppenwolf is underwater, he's getting that box, and then you had that Queen of Atlantis or whoever that was.
I think it was a daughter.
Maybe of the daughter, but she out of nowhere had that big swarm of bubbles to capture him, and I thought, okay, this is going to be cool, and it already started to be cool, and then it kind of again stuffed out, and that was that. Just nuggets here and there, but
well, when I think about it, there was a tremendous amount of outdoor scenes.
Yeah.
And, it included a nighttime scene of Wonder Woman meeting up with Cyborg. I thought that was lit really well done, considering the fact it was at nighttime.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman meeting up with Bruce Wayne and taking a walk, along the lake or whatever. There was like what you said, the Amazon Island battle with the villain. There was Bruce talking to Aquaman during their first meeting, and it's all overcast and foggy. The whole fight with Superman when he's resurrected, and so on. I mean, all these locations have a distinct look about them, which I appreciated. It wasn't like, here's our one color palette and we're just going to, just splat it on every single scene. Like each one of those scenes I listed looked very well done in terms of the lighting and the framing. I mean, just just the overall aesthetic. I found myself thinking, man, this is kind of a treat because we're getting so many different locations, and you can tell they have their own unique signature look about them. Do you have anything else to say about cinematography?
I was thinking of that scene. It was actually, many people probably would have passed on it, but the scene where Wonder Woman Gal Gadot. Anyway, Diana. Good grief, I have all these names in my mind. Where Diana and Bruce are walking through that park, that little trail near the lake there in Gotham, and it really felt Gotham-y with that light rain and kind of the murky water, but you had the green trees and the trail, and it really felt like Gotham. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people would have just passed over it.
Segueing into soundtrack. Like I said earlier, one of the high points of the movie for me was the soundtrack. I thought it was fantastic to have Danny Elfman do the score. And furthermore, Steve, bring back his 1989 Batman theme as well as mesh. If you notice, I don't know if you picked this up or not, but he meshed John Williams' 1978 Superman score with Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel efforts.
Interesting.
It was really, really cool. He also brought back Wonder Woman's theme in a few places, which of course
I heard that. Yeah.
He wasn't the one who originally scored that, but he put his own little kind of riff on it, which was cool. I wish he put more thought into creating memorable themes for the newcomers, though, as I didn't notice them for Flash or Aquaman or Cyborg. I thought that was a kind of a missed opportunity there, just because Elfman knows how to do a comic book hero theme. I mean, he's done, obviously, Batman. He did Spider-Man. And now he's working on Justice League too, of course. But I was surprised that there wasn't enough. And I just can't help but wonder if it's just due to it being rushed.
Yeah, most likely.
I also wanted to hear some sort of combination of these themes come together during the final battle sequence. perhaps as like a means to segue between superheroes, just as the camera did. So if you're going from one hero to the other, it would have been nice to have the music almost like, you know, if it's on Batman, you hear the dun 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 dun, and then all of a sudden, if the camera flies over to Wonder Woman, you have the percussion and the melodies do some sort of clever segue that has that goes from dun 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 to all of a sudden to the more of the which I think they can totally do. So yeah, I mean, I think that
They need to bring it more to life, bring it more to the foreground.
well, and music plays such a pivotal role in films. It
Right.
really helps to catapult the audience into whatever kind of scene that they're currently watching. And I think even if they were like another great creative challenge for Elfman would have been, can you take all of these themes from these different superheroes and then during like the last fight sequence, somehow mesh them together to actually form a Justice League theme?
True.
You know, like in Marvel Studios, they have an Avengers theme. They have that. I believe Alan Silvestri scored that, and they have that dun 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 dun. You know, it goes on and on. But very recognizable. It's like, oh wow, that's the Avengers.
Right.
I would have really liked to have seen that for something like the Justice League. And I'm going to I'll probably skim over like on iTunes and see if there is something that's there. But when I watched the movie, there was nothing that really stood out to me. The only parts that did were the 1989 Batman score and the Superman stuff.
Yeah.
But did you have any thoughts? I'm totally just monologuing on this soundtrack part.
Well, you noticed it a lot more than I did. I wish they would have done something like that, or even slightly remix the Batman music a tad bit. And why I thought of that was when I was playing the Master Chief Collection earlier, and they redid all of the choral music and they brought it to life and much more prevalent in the game. And I thought, what if they did something like that? Maybe add a couple other instruments in there, or more of some of the instruments, and so it sounded more pronounced in the movie, so people would notice it. I love that soundtrack. That's one of the all-time favorite soundtracks for a movie, and I completely missed it. And if you didn't say anything about it and I didn't read it, I would have been clueless. You know, that's how in the background it is.
Going to costumes now, Michael Wilkinson was the costume designer for Justice League. And I personally have enjoyed his previous efforts on films like 300, Tron Legacy, Man of Steel, and American Hustle. Did you ever see American Hustle?
I saw parts of it, but
That's
I
a
didn't see the
good
whole
movie.
thing.
I didn't care for his Batman design in Batman versus Superman. I've always been really critical of that particular wardrobe. That was the thing, really. I didn't want Ben Affleck to be the choice for Batman, and also just the approach to the wardrobe. I was like, nah, I can't get behind. I know that there are other people who do like it, and that's great. But for me personally, I'm like, nah. It's not for me.
His that suit doesn't work. It looked like pajamas. Like a lot of many layered pajamas is what it looked like.
I thought that the suit in this film, though, was better than in Batman versus Superman. There were alterations that were made that did. I was like, okay, that I can get behind. It does look better. What else, though? It's important to know that Lindy Hemming, who I'm a huge fan of, she was the one who designed Wonder Woman's outfit from the movie Wonder Woman. I mean, she's done so many outfits for different films, and she's just amazing. It's just so I think it's important to note that there, to my knowledge, just watching the film, I didn't see any changes to that particular outfit. So Mr. Wilkinson can't get all the credit on that.
I guess we got to talk about Cyborg's outfit.
Sure.
I thought he looked cooler in the hoodie than he did in his regular form.
I have a theory on that because I know what you're saying. And I think it's because they wanted to visually convey that his body was still going through this evolution process, that it was basically at this kind of new prototype stage. Because if you noticed, even throughout the film, like he was still coming to grips with like the AI side of him and how things can transform and move. And they even talk about in the film how like each day something else
Right.
gets added. So that's what my feeling is on it. I have a feeling if we get to see more of Cyborg in the future, I think that his whole like exoskeleton look will become more refined and beefed out a bit. Because I know what you mean. Like certain parts of him looked a little too scrawny, and other parts are too bulky.
He looked disproportional.
Right, and I think
like his waist was only like.
I think they did that on purpose, though. My hope is that they will, and I'm sure they will, because they do that with all the superhero costumes. They always do updates and that sort of thing.
Right.
What did you think of Aquaman's outfit?
Or lack thereof.
Oh, so buff.
His was cool. I mean, it looked kind of like fish scales, and now it's kind of what I expected.
Yeah, it looked ancient and had kind of a nice aquatic textured swirl pattern thing going.
No, the thing about Aquaman in the movie, and I guess I might be reversing back to plot, but most of the movie with him in it had nothing to do with water. And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, Aquaman's most of his abilities have to do with something with water.
Did he seem like he was a fish out of water?
Yeah, he was a fish out of water. I mean, he was jumping around and throwing his fork.
I gotta say though, that's one scene where he's falling through the sky and he's just laying waste up. For me, I was digging it. I'm like, yeah.
I'm glad people were tossing him around.
In fact, I think that's what he said when he landed on the Batmobile. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was whatever. It wasn't much special to me. I liked when he was flying through the water, and all those bubbles behind him. I mean, that's how Superman can fly in the air. He can fly in the water, and I thought that was pretty sweet. But them tossing him around in the air and throwing his fork and going through the building, it didn't do anything for me. It wasn't terrible, but
I do think it's worth noting though. I too felt like I wish that there was water. There was some sort of body of water that was close by during that fight sequence, because I felt like, man, everything is so hot and dry and red and like, man, like I hope this guy is okay. But like he definitely. Having said that, I do think that it was fun to see him kick some booty.
I wish it would have been cool to see him kind of manipulate the water in a way, because when the water was coming through that one scene before he had joined the group and he was there to kind of stop it in a way, or at least slow it down, he had control over it. I wanted to see more of that, but on a grander scale. And what we saw was him flying through the air, which it's not really his place.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And I was surprised by that. It would have been nice if like the baddies headquarters was close to a body of water, just so we could have the opportunity. I mean, yeah, it would have been predictable because you're like, oh, okay, there's the water. What's going to happen?
Right.
But I don't know. I think everybody was secretly hoping to see some sort of killer orcas or something, you know.
So, killer whale to the face. Killer whale to the face.
Yeah, take that. How about a tentacle to the face?
Where'd that come from?
So slimy.
Picking suckers off his face.
Yeah, exactly.
World?
So, to wrap things up, I think it is time to have other directors come in and provide their vision for the DCCU. Zack Snyder's strength, in my opinion, is his ability to create dazzling visual spectacles, but his weakness is in maintaining deep substance material, like what we've been talking about, because that gives legs for his visuals to stand on. And I just think that there's too much pizzazz and not enough substance. I mean, that's just what it is. In fact, it reminds me of a very famous quote that George Lucas said way back in the day when he was being interviewed. He said, "A special effect without a story is a very boring thing."
Indeed.
So, I think a good example of when it did work well was Man of Steel, because Zack Snyder did direct Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. And I think that film is one of my favorites from him because there was a significant amount of substance that made for great storytelling. And the only flaw was really the last 1/3 of the film when the fight scene between Superman and General Zod was going on. And it just dragged on because no one was really visibly accruing bodily harm. It was like they were just smacking each other for over and over. And I actually started to feel bad for the buildings because the buildings were all like just crumbling around them, but they had no black eye or split lip or anything.
I was actually the same with this movie minus Bruce Wayne because he got hurt a little bit. But I was thinking, man, no one can defeat Steppenwolf without Superman, but no one's actually accruing any sort of cuts or bruises or damage. I mean, Gal Gadot still had all her makeup on, and Okay.
Yeah, that is something that needs to be addressed. I mean, when you have, I understand if you're fighting against like normal Joe Schmoes, then yeah, you're not going to have really any kind of bodily injury that's visible.
Right.
However, if you're fighting someone that's your equal or perhaps even stronger, you will have some sort of visual bodily harm that you can see there. And not only that, but it adds gravitas to the entire situation.
Don't use such big words on me, Ross.
Well, for the layman, it's gravity.
I think in this day, in our age, when we're getting a plethora of all these comic book movies.
Do you know what a plethora is?
We were talking about this a couple episodes ago, where a lot of folks are jumping on the Marvel bandwagon. We're getting superhero stuff after superhero stuff all the time now, and that's okay if you pay respects to the depths of these characters and their stories and where they came from. But when you rush a story like this, and it just seems like a popcorn kind of whatever romp, and it loses a lot of that characterization and the depth, it lowers the value of the story from where these folks came from, and to me that cheapens my memories in a way.
Well, I think it's all about execution. Like Avengers is a textbook example of how you successfully execute a team superhero movie. I mean, that seriously is one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, it was flawless the way they did that.
Right, but it wasn't just the Avengers. It was how they built up the Avengers and then gave us this big punch to the face with it.
Looking at IMDb, Zack Snyder is producing Gotham City Sirens, Deadshot, Aquaman. There is an Aquaman standalone film that's coming out. Wonder Woman 2, Suicide Squad 2, and Flashpoint.
Suicide Squad.
He's also slated to direct Justice League Part 2. So his influence on the DCCU will remain for the foreseeable future. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Nothing personal against the guy because the guy does good work, but I feel as though there needs to be, I think he does his best work if there is some sort of, I don't know, like more of a heavy hitting tag team involved where let Zack Snyder take care of the visual spectacle of things, but let someone else come in. Like, I think this was a very fascinating example of when Joss Whedon came in, you could tell that where the parts that had kind of more sprinkling influences of Joss Whedon versus Zack Snyder. And I think if they were to start out that way, as opposed to have him come in at the end and just, take over as an emergency, I'd be curious to see how that would happen because I think that there is massive potential there. Like, let someone else take care more of the exposition, that sort of thing, and really put him into more of a director/producer role when it comes to more of the visual side of things. I don't know how that would work, but I do think that is the missing link. But as it stands, I think that Justice League was a decent movie, in my opinion. I think the chemistry between the actors, although not as strong as the Avengers, was still the strongest attribute of the film. This film proves how vital it is, once again, as I've stated earlier, it's so vital to dole out your characters in standalone films in order for the audience to forge like an emotional attachment to each character. Don't shoehorn a bunch of them into one film and try and fit a little, teeny tiny part of their exposition of backstory in order to, validate their existence in the film. Dole it out, make the time to have those standalone films because then you'll have a bigger return on your investment later on.
Well, we want to see more of the characters, but if you make it so that we don't care in the beginning, we're not going to go see the next film.
Right.
Yeah.
And this film, just also proves how important it is to have a high level connected overarching storyline that ties all of the standalone films together and sets up team-based films like Justice League or the Avengers for success, as well as sequels to the standalone films in the future. I mean, I keep saying this, I keep beating this drum over and over again. Like listen, Marvel Studios and Disney have perfected the high level journey, if you will. Like if you were to have a whiteboard session and you were to just do like this kind of flow, this workflow of like which movies come out at what year and when the team-based movies come out in certain years. I mean, they've already perfected it. It works. have that be your overarching ecosystem, if you will, and then you can focus on the unique exclusive stories of each one of these characters that are completely different than the characters from the Marvel universe. I think do that. Don't do this weird ADD thing where like you have Batman versus Superman, where it's kind of a Batman and Superman movie, and then you do Suicide Squad, which is this weird thing, and then you're trying to bring in those characters over here and just it's
way too rushed. The whole thing, they're trying to like catch up in a way.
Yeah, they're trying to play catch up. But I'm glad you said that, because that is my point really is don't feel like you have to catch up. There is no catching up involved here.
Exactly.
You have beloved characters that people across the globe absolutely are obsessed with. Literally have fun taking your time with each and every character.
We will give you money if you do it this way.
Yeah. The film apparently cost around $300 million to make. And I don't know if they'll recoup their investment, which will put doubt into future sequels, but hopefully it will cause a bit of a shakeup within the studio and reorganize themselves more into that well-oiled machine like we're describing. Of course, once again, going back to the dead horse, Ben Affleck is the fly in the ointment for this team. He simply does not fit the role of Bruce Wayne or Batman in a way that Christian Bale or Michael Keaton did. There are moments when the camera is far enough away during a fight scene and you can't tell it's Ben, but those are very few and far between. And I shouldn't have to try to look for tiny moments like that. I should be able to enjoy the actor up close in every scene. To be fair, Ben Affleck did fit Batman much better than George Clooney did. So there is a silver lining there when you compare him to Batman and Robin. That movie was just, took years off my life. Aside from Affleck, though, I think everyone else was perfectly cast, and I hope to see more from them in the future movies. Do you agree?
I do. Are we getting into the last level thoughts here, Rush? Because
we are indeed. This is the wrap-up, Steve.
What I would like to see them do moving forward is not so oversaturate all the CG. And it would have been rewarding for me if they used some practical effects more in this film than Marvel did, because that could be a way that they could differentiate themselves from Marvel. Because you have CGI in almost everything nowadays, but practical effects is a nice surprise. And in that first scene when Batman nets that little demon-looking firefly, that would have been cool if there was all practical effects and they had some conversation of what was to come, instead of Bruce Wayne going, "Alfred, you see this? Hey, Alfred, are you there?" And
Hey, Al.
yeah. So I would love to see.
Can I call you Al? Or
Yeah.
Fred. Or it's Alf.
Oh, anyhow, no, it's Marvel Universe, isn't it? Alfred, Alf.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyhow,
that was a TV show.
yeah. So yeah, no, I was pretty disappointed in this. I really wanted to love a lot of the characters, and I felt like watching you play Injustice 2 gave me more of the background in a fighting game, nonetheless, than watching this movie. I felt that it was extremely rushed from the get-go, and if I'm looking for reasons to enjoy the film, I'm totally not enjoying it. There were gold nuggets to be had, and it seems as if you could definitely tell there was two separate visions for this film, and I wanted to again that whole scene with the Amazon women and the lanterns, and I mean that was heaven for me. I wanted to see
seriously.
Just make a movie about that. You'll have my money. Period.
Imagine if they had allocated an additional 30 minutes to just that battle setup.
Of course, it would have been incredible. And you know what else I wanted to see that they didn't do, or they didn't script, is I wanted to see more of a hashing out and a forgiveness between Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. And throughout all the Batman movies we've seen, he does not kill. He even saved the Joker, and that's his nemesis. He does not kill. And then he ended up ending Superman's life, or contributing to it.
He didn't actually do it.
Right.
If you, I don't want to.
Right, exactly. But in this movie, Diana is talking to Bruce saying, "You can't be there when we revive him because he's going to want to kill you. You know, you're pretty much the reason why he's in the grave. And it would have been nice to have this scene of forgiveness and not just move on past it, or even Bruce Wayne trying to deal with that, because Superman is obviously a big part of the metropolis and to the people. And everyone loves Superman. And
I got to cut you off real quick. One of the big satisfying moments in the movie for me was when Superman came and just kicked the crap out of that villain. I mean, you saw him as Superman in whoop-ass mode.
For sure.
I mean, I was just like, wow, okay, I'm digging that. That was cool. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
You know, I wouldn't even mind it if he even had a beard, to be honest. I mean, if you're in a coffin and studies have shown your hair still kind of grows if you're dead.
Well, you know, he is Kryptonian, Steve.
True, he is, right.
He may not have the... what is it, posthumous side effects that humans do?
Well, this is true, but in Man of Steel, he did have a beard in the beginning.
Oh, he could grow a beard.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
but he was very much alive.
Oh, well, I know that.
He wasn't dead.
Right.
He wasn't in a coffin.
But they didn't have to make it like a $14 million deal to give him a fake upper lip.
Oh, man, that was bad. But,
Just many choices in the film were wrong, and it felt incredibly rushed, and I want to enjoy it for what it is. I want to sit there, and I want to smile, I want to have a good time, and... there was so much I felt that was disrespecting the comic book generation from whence these characters came, and I feel wrong about it. I really do.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole thing needs to be rewritten. You go back to formula, rewrite it, make it good. We'll pay for it, and we will go out and buy the DVD. I mean, even with like the Nightcrawler, for crying out loud. Now it looked like why did they even put that in there? They didn't even need it.
Well, I thought that was pretty cool. Just because, you know, Wayne Tech is something that we don't really see enough of, in my opinion, when it comes to films. Like if you read the comic book, like Bruce Wayne has a ton of gadgets and stuff. In the movies, it's always the Batmobile and the Batwing. The Batmobile and the Batwing. It's like, wait.
Rose.
Oh, yeah, the Batpod. I mean, he has a ton of stuff. Like I, for one, really like that just because... if you notice in the fight scenes, and this actually is something I did appreciate about the film, is the fact that Batman is human. He's not superhuman like these other people.
Right.
So there is a vulnerability there, and he has to rely on some of his Wayne tech in order to try and at least survive. Like if you notice, he really was not. He never went toe to toe with Steppenwolf.
Right.
He was taking care of his little minions, little insect minions, but even that was struggling. But I like that because of the fact that he is, in fact, human. You have no idea like how strong these extraterrestrial characters are, you know, what it is. You know, if you have people like Wonder Woman and Aquaman who are struggling against them, I mean, the guy would just kill Batman in one swoop. I mean, there's nothing he can do about that. And I appreciated that.
Yeah. I've seen almost in every single Batman movie, even the George Clooney Batman, he still does some fighting that's not embarrassing. And this, I was looking for something cool, and he really didn't do anything cool.
No, he really didn't.
I mean, I'm thinking, where is Batman? You know what they need? And I want to see going forward. I want to see something different. I want to see Batman being more of like the detective.
Which you will see when Matt Reeves, who's directing the next Batman movie, he has said he's placing more of an emphasis on kind of the film noir, the detective side of things. So I, for one, I think I'm pretty excited to see what they come up with.
And I'm kind of getting tired of them showing Bruce Wayne as being aging. Like, oh, yeah, he's just this old man Bruce Wayne, old man Batman. Come on, the comic book lasted a long time. No one cares. I mean, if James Bond isn't like fighting
he's
crime,
65 years old, James
or
Bond.
even in his 80s, you know what I'm saying? They could keep this memory alive and going for a long, long time.
So the reason why they did that for this particular iteration of Batman was just that Frank Miller's Batman is more of that gristly, older Batman who's more jaded, that sort of thing. So I understand where they're coming from with that. But to your point too, I totally agree. I do not want to keep going down this path. I want to get back to kind of, mid-30s Batman.
Right.
Something to that effect. Well, how many stars would you give this film?
Man. No more than a 2. I'm almost at 1 3/4 because I was searching for stuff to like about it, and that says a lot. Mm-hmm. With everything we've talked about, we've given so many good suggestions for the film that would have been better and would have been more deserving of time and money that
I don't plan on watching it ever again. I don't really care to watch it. Well, there's nothing for me to come back to. I still want to see more of these films because, like I said in the beginning, the Batman movies, standalone ones, were fantastic. The Man of Steel was fantastic. Wonder Woman was fantastic. So they have shown and proven that the DC world is a place that I want to be in.
Right.
But when they're all together collectively, the formula doesn't work. They need to redo a lot of that stuff and tread carefully from here on out. We've had Batman versus Superman, which was passable completely. We just completely passed on it. We didn't even want to see it.
Right.
I put it on my Netflix list just because I figured I should. And I was even like, I really don't want to see this. And I shouldn't have to feel that way from memories I've had as a kid, buying the comic books, using my imagination back in the day, with all these superheroes. And to me, it just feels wrong to give them money and time for something that they really rushed and stamped out.
I do have a curiosity to see it just because Henry Cavill's in it.
True.
And the only other movie I've seen him in as Superman is Man of Steel, and I just really loved him in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I am close to you. I think that in terms of my review, I would give it 2.5 stars. I'm close to where you are with the 2-star mark. I think that in terms of the casting, with the exception of Ben Affleck, I think that everybody else just fit their roles really well. I liked also how they were able to individualize or make each character completely unique. Like what we discussed earlier with the Flash just not being a fighter, someone who's very new to the scene, but obviously his skills are very important to the success of the overall team. Or Aquaman, the way that Jason Momoa was able to just really make Aquaman just genuinely a cool character. You're like, yeah, this is like how he would say it. Even Cyborg, I thought he had a lot of mystique about him, that sort of thing. And really, it's kind of a double-edged sword in that sense, because due to the fact that they were all interesting and they all were cast so well, I wanted more exposition. And because this film was only 2 hours long, we didn't get enough of that. And so that was a big miss right there. So that combined with the fact that that there was not enough plot, the villain was forgettable, that sort of thing.
It basically comes down to if you just want to see a romp of your favorite comic book characters, then you might have some gratification out of it. But other than that, almost every single aspect needed work or needed to be changed.
Exactly. So I'm hopeful to see what they do in the future. But as for now, I think it's just 2.5 stars from me. So. Well, that about wraps it up. Be sure to check out patreon.com/Joygasm and subscribe to get the most out of the show. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can listen to our podcast on soundcloud.com/Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our adventure of gaming live. Until next time, folks, keep that League of Justice going. Happy gaming. Later.